Oh no. Oh, dude, this is one-sided. This is so one-sided. This is just so one-sided. Ottoman Empire, chronological order, rise of it by kings and generals.
In our last episode on the history of the Ottoman Empire, we covered the...
I'm just gonna skip this part. Let's get in it. Sponsor. Yep, sponsor, skip. I'm just gonna skip. Let's get to the good part. I'm poor. I always say this, I'm poor.
The battles of Bythenia and Dimbos. The Ottoman state under Osman Gazi was poised to follow up their successes with the eventual conquest of Byzantine Bithynia. Within only 2 decades, the Ottoman Beylic had transformed from a tiny territorial pocket of 2 minor villages to a realm of a few dozen towns and major castles. This swift acquisition of new land from the Byzantines would result in a steady migration of Turkic peoples from central Anatolia into the Ottoman Beylic, bolstering
Bro, someone in my last video that I reacted to on this series, they told me that the early Ottoman Empire were a machine, like a military powerhouse machine or something like that.
Osman's military and economic capacities to wage wars against his infidel neighbors up north. Further Turkic migration into Ottoman lands would increase in scale during the first decade of the 14th century, as the Sultanate of Rum would collapse after years of internal struggles, leaving central Anatolia in a state of social and political unrest between the newly established beylics in the region. Meanwhile, with the last of his Anatolian holdings at risk of falling to the various Muslim powers of the region after the battles of Bythenia and Dimbos, Andronikos II began searching for outside help to fend off the Turkic incursions into his lands. The Roman Emperor would first send letters to Mehmed Ghazan of the Ilkhanate in the hopes of convincing the Mongol ruler to reassert Mongol power in Anatolia after the fall of the Sultanate of Rum. However,
Bro, the border gore is so bad. I'm like looking at this border gore and oh my gosh, dude. Oh, I hate it. This is like Hoi 4 border gore. Oh my gosh. What is this country? Epirus, next to the Eastern Roman Empire in Greece. What is that? Someone please explain what that is. Also, what is this by the Achaean? By Naples? What is that? I don't know what that is.
Mongol defeat against the Mamluks during the Battle of Marj al-Safar and the further decentralization of Mongol domains in the Middle East, talks between the Byzantines and the Ilkhanate failed to achieve any results. Andronikos II would then turn to the Great Catalan Company, a mercenary group from Western Europe, famous for their military exploits in the hilly ranges of Spain and Sicily. Accepting the call for help, the 8,000-strong Catalan company would arrive in Constantinople at the start of 1303. In an act to bolster morale and loyalty amongst the Catalans, the Italian commander of the mercenary group, Roger de Flor, would be given the coveted imperial title of Megas Dux and would be promised the emperor's niece in the hopes for a successful military campaign. However, the Catalans would also prove ineffective for the Byzantine Empire as the mercenary
Catalans, like from Catalonia? Oh, dude, I remember back when like everyone used to talk about freaking Catalonia, bro. And now nobody cares about freaking Catalonia. Does that place still even want independence? I don't know. The last person whom I talked to, I don't know. That person was dumb. I'm not gonna lie. Freaking, I don't really have like any like Spanish people watching my channel. Oh shoot. I accidentally spat from laughing, but freaking hell, Catalan. This is like the first time like I've heard of like Catalonian like history, like anything like regarding Catalonia. Like, does Catalonia like even have any type of history?
Instead of focusing on reconquering Byzantine lands in Western Anatolia, indiscriminately plundered the peoples of the countryside, regardless of their religious affiliation, for their own gain. Thus alienating the remaining Christian population in the region from Byzantine rule.
Oh my gosh, bro. F in chat for the Eastern Roman Empire, bro. Oh my gosh. Oh, that is so pain.
Nothing from his expensive gamble to retake his Anatolian holdings, Andronikos II, in a disastrous move, would murder Roger de Flor during a banquet, which would result in a bloody 2-year war between imperial forces and the Catalans in Thrace. While the Catalans had been marauding in western Anatolia, the Ottomans were forced to withdraw from their blockades of Prusa and Nicaea.
Whoa.
But now that the Latin mercenaries had turned upon their former employers, Osman Gazi could resume conducting major raids into Byzantine Bithynia. During this period, the towns of Hamankia, Geve, Mudanya, Andranos, Yalova, and Akyezi were slowly incorporated into the Ottoman Beyliği.
These, dude. Oh my gosh, dude, the Ottomans are actually unstoppable.
Cutting the Byzantines off from their key cities of Prusa and Nicaea. It was also during this period in which Byzantine imperial authority in western Anatolia became non-existent, as local Turkic beyliks in the region began annexing such Byzantine towns as Ephesus in 1308, Smyrna in 1310, and Magnesia in 1313.
Damn, bro.
Only the town of Philadelphia would remain in Byzantine hands, as the rest of western Anatolia would swiftly
City
fall
of brotherly love. Bro, when he said Philadelphia, I was like, what the hell? I didn't know that there was a name Philadelphia back then. I think of Philadelphia as the American city. I didn't know that there was a Philadelphia back then. That's actually pretty cool. That's actually really cool.
As a result of the rapid disintegration of Byzantine power in Anatolia and the inept rule of Andronikos II, during the year 1321, a new round of Byzantine civil wars would erupt between the emperor and his usurper grandson Andronikos III. Wanting to take advantage of Byzantine civil unrest, the now 60-year-old Osman began his final preparations for his long-awaited siege on Prusa.
60 years old. Finally.
The siege equipment to seize the city, Osman would instead order the construction of 2 major forts around Prusa to oversee the city's blockade. Upon the construction of the forts, a 10,000-strong Ottoman garrison, led by Osman's son, Orhan Gazi, was installed, thus cutting off Prusa from the rest of the world.
Holy crap, dude, imagine being inside of that city. Also, why didn't the Ottomans not have the equipment needed to take the city, right? Because they're just going around left, right, center, taking all of these places, and they're quite sizable at this point. How do they not have the equipment to take the city? Did the places that they take not have like engineers or like any type of equipment? Like how do they not have that equipment?
As the Byzantine civil war raged on in Thrace between members of the Palaiologos dynasty, Prusa was left at the mercy of Osman and his army.
Bro, are you kidding me? A civil war? A civil war? Oh my gosh, bro. I pity the Eastern Roman Empire. I do. I pity the Eastern Roman Empire. Although I said that the Roman Empire has done a lot. And they deserved their painful downfall. They do deserve their painful downfall. But still, I pity them, bro.
Standing the Ottoman army at his gates, on April 6th of 1326, the governor of Prusa would officially surrender the city to Orhan after seeing that no reinforcements from Constantinople were coming to their aid. The city of Prusa would be the first major walled city to come under Ottoman rule, effectively doubling the wealth and population of the Beylik overnight.
Oh no!
However, the first leader of the Ottomans would not live to see the conquest of Prusa, as he would die shortly before the conclusion of the siege. Osman Gazi, who had fought the Byzantines for more than 40 years and won countless victories for his Beylik, only left a horse, a couple of oxen, and a few flocks of sheep to his name. Unlike other Turkic warlords.
Really? What? He didn't have much? What? Okay, let's see what he says before I say anything.
Who hoarded their wealth. Osman Gazi, according to traditional chronicles, spent all his wealth on his subjects, thus making him very popular with the local Muslim and Christian populace of Bithynia. In the centuries after his death,
You know what? If that is true, that's very noble of him. That's very noble of him. You know what the Bible says? The Bible says that when you have wealth, you're supposed to give back. You're not supposed to hold it. You're supposed to give back. So that's very, very noble of him. I can't even hate on him. Honestly, that has my respect. That's very respectable, considering this time in history. And honestly, even today, a lot of people wouldn't really do something like that. Let's continue.
Osman Ghazi would be regarded as the ideal sultan, in which all future Ottoman sultans tried to replicate his reputation as a brave and just leader.
Yep.
Every Ottoman leader from then onwards would carry the sword of Osman during their enthronement ceremony, as
Understandably so. Rightfully so. That is a true role leader right there. A real role leader. Okay? If I had someone like that as my leader, I would ride or die with them.
a way to proclaim their reign to be noble and just like the humble founder of the empire. Upon the conquest of Prusa, Osman's body would be laid to rest within the walls of the city, a wish that he made to his son Orhan during the beginning of the siege. After its capture, Prusa, thereafter known as Bursa, became the new capital of the Ottoman Beyliği. Shortly after this, an issue of succession sprung up between the two sons of Osman. According to a more traditional rendering of events, the more martially experienced Orhan and more diplomatically inclined Alaeddin agreed on a political agreement in which the former would become the new Bey of the Ottomans, while the latter would be given the new political position of Grand Vizier. This political partnership would prove vital for future Ottoman statecraft. As when Orhan was off on military campaigns conquering new lands, Alaeddin would oversee running the daily domestic matters of the state from Bursa. In the few years after the conquest of Bursa, the new leader of the Ottomans would launch a military campaign into Byzantine Bithynia, reaching as far as...
Jeez Louise, man. What are the Romans doing? Oh my gosh, dude. The Romans are just pitiful. I mean, I knew the Ottoman Empire rose up at the expense of the Roman Empire, but what are the Romans doing? This is so pitiful to watch.
The village of Idos, thereby cutting off Constantinople from the major city of Nicomedia.
Oh my gosh, this is just so pitiful.
Nicaea would once again be put under a siege, led by Orhan and his eldest son, Suleiman Pasha. That same year, the 7-year Byzantine civil war would end, and a new emperor, Andronikos III, would unite the Byzantine realm after defeating his grandfather and forcing him to retire to a monastery.
Alright, what are you gonna do? Romans, what are you gonna do? Do something. Like, I'm not even gonna lie to you, this is... I expected the Romans to put up more of a fight.
And untested emperor would start his reign off by ordering an official imperial campaign to retake lost lands in Bithynia and
finally,
the blockade of Nicaea.
Finally, the Romans are finally doing something, or Byzantine, whatever you want to call them.
With the support of his grand domestic and close friend, John Kantakouzenos, Andronikos III was able to fund and muster around 4,000 infantry for his new Grand Anatolian campaign.
Alright.
The plan for the first portion of the campaign was for imperial forces to cross into Anatolia via the Bosporus, force march to Nicomedia, resupply and gather more forces in that city, then march on Nicaea to lift the Ottoman blockade. If all went well and Nicaea was relieved from Ottoman forces, the emperor would then conduct the slow process of pushing back the Ottomans from Bithynia and re-establishing Byzantine rule in the region.
Right,
as the Byzantines were preparing for
that sounds like a pretty solid plan, but you know, no plan ever survives. Like when it actually gets put into action, no plan ever survives that.
Anatolia, Orhan, who was still personally leading the blockade on Nicaea, heard the news of the incoming Byzantine military campaign and withdrew most of his besieging forces to meet the Byzantine host before they could regroup in Nicomedia.
Oh
in
no.
June of 1329, Andronikos
How did he hear of that? How did he hear of that though?
III and his army would cross into Anatolia. However, after only 3 days of marching along the shore of the Gulf of Nicomedia, the imperial forces would meet an Ottoman host of 8,000, led by Orhan himself.
Oh no, they're outnumbered. Yeah, this is not gonna end well. Big yikes.
Day Maltepe, blocking the main road to Nicomedia. With the Ottomans being stationed on a nearby hill and having twice the manpower compared to his imperial forces, conditions were far from favorable for Andronikos III. However, on the 10th of June, the Byzantine emperor would challenge the Ottoman host by deploying his men for battle just below the main Ottoman hill.
Okay. Okay, my man is saying square up. He says square up, bro.
Was deploying for battle. 300 Ottoman mounted archers rode down the hill, beginning to harass the Byzantines with arrow fire. Being undeterred by the missiles from above, imperial forces made their way up the hill in a tight formation, even managing to drive back 2 waves of Ottoman assaults down the hill. As day turned into night, and seeing that Ottoman assaults down the hill were not ceasing anytime soon, the Byzantine army began to withdraw back to their camp in order to conduct an orderly retreat in the morning back to Constantinople. However, during this withdrawal, Ottoman cavalry had managed to position itself at the rear of the Byzantine army, and proceeded to charge at the now exposed flanks of the imperial bodyguard of Andronikos III, thus wounding the emperor. As panic arose...
Oh no. Oh, dude, this is one-sided. This is so one-sided. This is just so one-sided.
Ranks due to the unexpected attack, the rumor of the emperor being slain on the battlefield began to be spread around by the rank-and-file men of the Byzantine army, an army that was starting to lose its battle cohesion after being exhausted by multiple hours of combat with Orhan's host.
Bloody
As
hell!
Andronikos III was stretchered off the battlefield alongside his imperial entourage, the morale-depleted Byzantine army scattered in the plain below the main Ottoman hill.
Oh, dude, they just left them? Oh, dude!
Throughout the night into the following morning, Ottoman Akinji horsemen picked off the remaining routing imperial forces, thus ending the engagement in an Ottoman victory. The Battle of Pelekanon would be the first direct encounter between the heads of state of the Byzantine and Ottoman empires. With the Byzantine relief army being destroyed during the battle, Nicomedia and Nicaea were on their own against Orhan and his besieging forces. After Pelekanon, Andronikos III would officially declare a policy of containment when it came to the Turks of Anatolia, thus ending more than 1,000 years of the Roman military presence in Anatolia. Within 3 years of the battle, Nicaea would surrender to Orhan, and Nicomedia would follow soon after in 1337.
Damn.
A vast majority of Bithynia was now...
But you know what, right? You know what? I like it because the Ottomans are fixing this border gore. This border gore is just so
control,
awful to
with
look
the
at.
exception of a few villages and settlements alongside the Bosporus Strait. While Orhan was out conquering towns and cities for the Ottoman Beylik, Alaeddin Pasha, from the new capital of Bursa, began a series of political and military reforms in order to better legitimize Ottoman power in the region. The Grand Vizier would first establish an Ottoman monetary system in which silver coins were stamped with Orhan's name, thus legitimizing the Ottoman Bey as a proper Turkic ruler in the region. Secondly, a new imperial dress code was adopted for governmental and military workers within the Beylik, as a way to emulate the Seljuk royal court of old. Lastly, a standing army of salaried soldiers was established, in the form of the Yaya and Muslim military corps.
Okay.
However, many Muslim Turkomans still preferred being granted land fiefdoms, called timars.
Bro, it's crazy to me how the Ottomans in their early period was like freaking, holy crap, unstoppable. Only for them to become known as the sick man of Europe. It's just surreal to me how much things change, bro. Freaking hell.
By the Ottoman government instead. No doubt, Alaeddin Pasha had many more reforms planned, but sometime during the conclusion of the siege of Nicaea, he would fall ill and die in Bursa, after years of loyally serving as his brother's right-hand man. Back in the Byzantine Empire, the military and political situation would only get worse, as Andronikos III would be sucked into a three-way struggle in the Balkans between the Second Bulgarian Empire and the emerging powerhouse that was the Kingdom of Serbia. During these...
Serbia? Oh my gosh, dude. I watched that History March. Video, Battle of Kosovo, 1389. Serbia, low-key, bro, powerhouse. Although the Ottomans came and stopped that, but still, powerhouse, bro. Freaking hell. Accidentally turned
conflicts in the
I
summer
clicked the
of
wrong thing there.
Andronikos III would suddenly fall ill with malaria and die, leaving the imperial throne to his 9-year-old son, John V. Pelekanon.
Oh my gosh, that's not gonna end well. 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 Nope. Nope. That's not gonna end well.
The regency was immediately established between the former emperor's confidant, John Kantakouzenos, Empress Dowager Anna of Savoy, and ecumenical patriarch John XIV Kalekes of Constantinople. However, when Kantakouzenos left the capital to fend off a Serbian invasion in the Balkans, the latter two regents would conduct a palace coup and named Kantakouzenos and his supporters as enemies of the state. What followed was a 6-year bloody civil war.
Another civil war? Are you kidding me?
Which would see Byzantine society fracture in two, as the urban populace of the empire supported John V, while the rural lands supported Kantakouzenos. Having lost all support in the major cities of Thrace, with the exception of Didymatiko and desertions plaguing his armies, Kantakouzenos would turn to the Turks of Anatolia to bolster his ranks. The Byzantine magnate would first employ the services of Amur the Lion of the Aidenids. However, the Turkic warlord would withdraw from the civil war when Crusader forces from Europe invaded his Beylik in 1343. Kantakouzenos would then turn to the Ottoman and Saracen Beyliks for assistance, even offering the Ottoman...
The irony in that. You're turning to the very people who are slowly eating you apart.
His eldest daughter's hand in marriage to solidify the alliance between their two states. Accepting the offer in a lavish ceremony in the town of Salimbria, Orhan Gazi and Theodora Kantakouzene would be married in front of Kantakouzenos' family, thus making the Bey of the Ottomans the son-in-law to the Byzantine magnate. With the marriage solidified and a couple of thousand Ottoman soldiers being ferried into Byzantine Thrace, Kantakouzenos would effectively change...
I don't like that. I don't think that was a good idea. I don't think that was a good idea for the Romans. I don't know what's gonna happen. Let's see what happens.
War in his favor. And by 1347, he would seize Constantinople and proclaim himself as senior co-emperor to John V.
Okay.
Even though the civil war was now over, Byzantine territory in the Balkans had been carved up severely by the newly formed Serbian Empire under Emperor Stefan Uroš IV.
You know what? I love that Serbian Empire though. Look at it. Look at that. That's so thick. That is ultra thick. Oh.
And the Second Bulgarian Empire. In addition to major
Bulgarian Empire
losses, the Byzantine countryside of Thrace...
Oh yeah, because the first Bulgarian Empire was Simeon the Great, when Bulgaria had basically all the Balkans. Yeah. That was what, in the 12th century?
Thoroughly pillaged by Turkic mercenary soldiers
13th century, I think.
Leaving the empire in a state...
Correct me if I'm wrong.
...of economic and social crisis. While the Byzantine Empire was in disarray, Orhan Gazi, during the year 1345, would take advantage of another neighboring civil war, this time in the Karasid Beylik. A bloody succession war between the sons of the former bey in the region had broke out, leading to an Ottoman military intervention by Orhan and his son Suleiman Pasha on the basis of re-establishing peace within a fellow Muslim nation. However, by the end of the conflict, the sons of the former Karasid Bey would be put under Ottoman house arrest, and the Beylik would be formally annexed into the Ottoman realm a few years later. The large Karasid navy, famous for its piratical exploits on the Aegean and its many talented Turkic soldiers and generals, would now be under the service of Orhan and his successors.
Oh, Oh, big buff. Ottomans got a big buff there.
Back in the Byzantine Empire, the dual rule between John V Palaiologos and John VI Kantakouzenos had become untenable, as the two rulers and their respective factions butted heads in the governance of the state.
Oh my gosh, don't tell me this is going to be another civil war. It's just going to be another civil war.
In shambles, domestic economy shattered, and the arrival of the Black Death from Crimea, tensions within Constantinople were at a political boiling point. Gathering up Serbian, Venetian and Genoese fiscal and military support, in 1352, the junior co-emperor of the Byzantines would invade the territories of Kantakouzenos' holdings in Thrace, thus sparking a new round of civil war. John VI Kantakouzenos would once again call forth Ottoman support for his war effort. Now in his 70s, Orhan Gazi would entrust Ottoman military operations to his son Suleiman Pasha. A 10,000-strong Ottoman army, consisting of mostly cavalry, would be transported to Thrace, which would result in Kantakouzeni forces defeating the coalition army of John V during the Battle of Didymateiko by the end of the year. After the decisive battle, John VI Kantakouzenos would declare victory against the Palaiologos family, delegitimizing the junior emperor John V in favor of his son Matthew. However, crises would persist as Ottoman forces, led by Suleiman Pasha, began raiding the countryside of Thrace, occupying the fort of Tezimpi in the process. While negotiations for return of the fort...
Oh my gosh, yep. Like I said, that's not gonna end well. I know I'm not saying much, but that's like because I'm just processing all the information. I say this in some of my videos where I'm not talking much. That's just because I'm just like, I want to see how this like ends, but like, I don't have like much to say yet. Because nothing crazy hasn't happened yet. But let's see.
On the night of March 2nd, 1354, the whole coastline of Thrace was devastated by a massive earthquake. Major towns in the region, like Gallipoli, saw their fortifications destroyed and their inhabitants dispersed.
Oh my gosh. That is probably the most unfortunate event to ever happen that I've learned about so far in history. That is so unfortunate.
Seeing the magnitude of destruction from the Asian side of the Hellespont, Suleiman Pasha would quickly order the construction of rafts to cross over the channel and gathered a great crowd of Turkic families to get ready to repair and resettle the towns of the Gallipoli Peninsula.
Oh my gosh.
Before long, the first Ottoman families stepped foot into Europe, and the fort at Gallipoli was taken over by a substantial Ottoman garrison. Hearing the news that the Turks had crossed into Europe, in an act of desperation, Kantakouzenos offered Suleiman 4 times the amount of tribute that he'd previously proposed in previous negotiations for Simpi, and for the Ottoman withdrawal from the entire region. However, the Ottoman leader shot back, stating that his troops had merely taken over a number of places that had been deserted by their Greek inhabitants, and that Gallipoli had fallen to him by the will of God and not by force.
Oh, bro, what if it was the will of God? Because you see, I do believe that things happen by God's will. I do believe that. So what if it did? What if it did? Some things though, doesn't happen by God's will. Some things happen by the will of the devil. But what if it was God's will? That's actually something to think about.
Suleiman Pasha, who
at least for me though, me being a Christian, that is,
had by then taken over the Ottoman military after his father's steady retirement from public life, would not honor the formal alliance between Constantinople and Bursa, but instead opted for a more aggressive posture against Kantakouzenos in order to take advantage of the destabilizing Byzantine Empire. By the summer of the same year, Suleiman Pasha would begin his much-awaited military campaign in Byzantine Thrace, capturing the towns of Kesan, Tekirdağ and Kolu in rapid succession.
Oh my gosh.
Meanwhile, back in the Byzantine capital, Kantakouzenos' rule became increasingly unpopular due to the Byzantine policy of containing the Turks in Anatolia failing disastrously.
Very bad.
The more popular John V Palaiologos would be invited back to the capital to rule as co-emperor to Kantakouzenos.
Oh wait, Is he an adult now? I think he's an adult,
The
yeah.
latter would retire to a monastery in disgrace. Within 3 years, the last forces of
disgrace.
Matthew Kantakouzenos would be defeated in Thrace, thus ending another round of Byzantine civil wars. With Osman and Orhan
Oh, jeez.
securing early victories against the Byzantines and capitalizing on the political divisions of their neighbors, the Ottoman Beylic had become one of the foremost rising stars of Anatolia. In the next episode, we will explore the Ottomans' sudden and deep expansion into the Balkans, and how Europe responded to these swift land acquisitions by the rising Muslim power. So make sure to subscribe and press.
This was probably the most pitiful historical video that I've reacted to so far. The last reaction that I did was on the Mongol Empire and how they ravaged the Kazmaranian Empire, whatever it's called. Check it out if you haven't checked it out. But even then, this is just pitiful. The Romans are just getting sweet over, man. Oh my gosh, I feel so bad. Even though I said they deserved it. Anyway, check out these videos that are appearing on your screen, or just go to my channel, watch my other reactions and whatnot. If you like my reaction, subscribe, drop a like on the video, help my channel recover from the shadow ban, and thanks for watching.